For those of you who don't actually know, the Florence Residences was a second property move that me and Kelly made, and it was not the best investment return that we got. I want to reveal to you the biggest mistake I've made so far in my property investment journey that even I as a seasoned investor made, so that you can understand the real risk, the real truth, and learn from this, avoid the mistakes, and know that you are not alone. But in fact, this mistake forced us to course correct, so we exited and bought another 3-bedder, and what we lost in the last 3.5 years, we made it back in just 6 months. Alright, let's get into it. Kelly bought Florence Residences, which is a 1-bedroom, for $715,000 back in March 2021. But then why specifically Florence Residences was also because when we compared to Condo, the nearby areas, the price at the time was very comparable to the resale 1-bedroom in the surrounding areas. We bought this very close during the COVID period, and that's when the developers were giving discounts, so that was an additional bonus. Fast forward to today, we actually sold the unit at $792K in November 2024, and so I'm going to give you guys a breakdown. I've not done this for a long time already. Let's get started. So right off the bat, you can see that there's a capital appreciation of just $77,000. Yeah, it's kind of sad. It's about 10%. Many other properties made so much money during the COVID period, but this is just $77,000. And recently there was an article saying that 1-bedrooms really didn't do well, but whereas the 2 and 3 bedrooms and even the 4 bedrooms did so much better, right? So how I wish we invested those properties. But never mind. When we collected the keys, we were not able to sell it immediately because of the seller's stamp duty. So we decided to actually continue to rent this out, and we rented it out for 7 months. That meant that each month we got about a $300 positive cash flow, and that meant that total in 7 months it was $2,100 of cash flow. And the tenant was helping us to pay the principal, so $7,000 worth of principal paid, about $1,000 a month. So all together, right, you can see these 3 things: appreciation, cash flow, and principal paid. All together, these are the 3 sources of profits that I'll get as a property investor. So total them up, my profits is actually $86,000. But you will also have to less off the expenses, right? Let's start off with these. When the building was under construction, we paid the interest ourselves. When we sell the property, we have to pay legal fee of $2,500. I paid an agent 1% to actually sell the property. That's $7,920. And then we also have to install the lights, etc. Right? That was like $400. Another good news was we only had to install curtain for the living room because the developer very kindly provided blinds for the bedroom. I only have 1 bedroom, blinds already done. So once you minus all the expenses, right, we'll come down to $60,280 as my net profit. So now's the time I want to calculate the ROI and why this is really a mistake. Now, let's look at the cost of investment first. So 25% down payment, that is about $178K, stamp duty $16K, and the legal fee for buying a new launch back then is $2,800. So in total, we spent about $197,000. Let's see the ROI. Just a quick recap. ROI is the profits divided by the cost of investment. Once you plug in the numbers, alright, you'll see that it comes out to 30% over 3 2/3 of a year, and then 8.3% per annum. Now 8.3% per annum is nothing to shout about at all, because normally properties can hit 10% or even higher. And if you have seen my other property breakdown videos with my industrial properties, I easily made like 20% in those properties. So 8.3 is really a sad thing. Now I just want to share one more thing that really motivated us to sell this property away. Now you see, when Kelly bought this property, she was the buyer and I had a real estate license, so I was the agent. And the developer paid me a commission because I sold the property to her. And actually this commission, right, is a sizable amount of money, and that goes into our profits right from day one. I'm going to share with you when I include the profits inside. Let's see the ROI. So this is my net profit, and the commission given to me at the time was $25,000. So once again, I put all the numbers in, right, you'll see that now my ROI jumps to 11.7% per annum. I feel a lot better, but I know this is not what an average buyer will be able to enjoy. The first conclusion here is maybe you want to consider to be a RES, to be an agent yourself. But as a property investor, I wouldn't really look into this ROI simply because 25,000 commission is not something that everybody can get. Number 2, right, this commission is nothing related to the performance of the property. So if you make a bad choice, it's just a bad choice, right? And last but not least, sometimes we don't always buy new launches and developer may not give you this kind of commission. Sometimes you might buy resale or what, right? So I would actually want to say that I'll be more conservative to look at this 8.3%. And this lies the biggest mistake that I've made. The mistake was to buy a one-bedroom in the outskirts of Singapore because the appreciation was minimal. So what really happened was, at that time, Florence Residences seemed to tick a lot of checkboxes, like there was transformation, the price was good, there was discounts and everything, and that really played into the emotions of choosing a property. But at the same time, the experience wasn't enough at the time to tell me that actually one bedroom in the outskirts region, or what we call OCR, is not really in demand. Now, if you think of Hougang, right, it's a very heartland area and there are many families staying there because of all the good schools in Hougang and maybe the conveniences in the MRT station. So people generally will be looking for like 3-bedroom or like a 4-room flat equivalent, right? 3-bedroom in Florence Residences did so much better, and 3 bedrooms in other outskirts regions of Singapore like your Tampines, your Woodlands also did fantastically well. What happens to 1-bedroom is likely only investors will come and buy from me, or in my case, it was actually a very young couple, looking to start their family, their first home, and eventually they bought this from us, right? But these people are really few and far between. Now, if I were an investor today, right, how I would want to buy a 1-bedroom is really when I go down to closer to city, right? Because that's where I see more expats and I see more rental demand when I get closer to the city. So really, 1-bedroom in outskirts is just cheap, but the demand for it is low and the exit is going to be tough. Now, I want to add one more difficulty that 1-bedrooms across all Singapores now face a special challenge, and that is because the prices of properties have all gone up since COVID. Now, if you guys can recall, long time ago, there was this saying of sell one, buy two. Like a lot of agents out there were selling sell one, buy two, this idea to people, right? And that was because in the past you could sell one property and then reinvest, maybe like sell one HDB and then reinvest your money into 2 properties. That was because condo prices were a lot lower pre-COVID. And by doing that, right, most of the time, one person will buy a home replacement and the other person will buy a investment property. So that's sell one, buy two. But over the years, prices have gone up so much that most people are just doing sell one, buy back one. And if you sell a home and you can only buy back one, what will you buy? Will you buy a home or will you buy an investment property? Most people will buy a home replacement, right? Because you sold your home. So because of that, the demand for that investment 1-bedroom has literally vanished as well. So that made that 1-bedroom really, really hard to sell. And so on hindsight, we really wanted to let go that 1-bedroom ASAP. That brought me to the next realization after selling the 1-bedroom is, what should we buy? So learning from these mistakes, right, and understanding the trends that in outskirt regions people want to demand a 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, right? That's when the criteria of a HomeVestor actually improve. That is why I upgraded the HomeVestor criteria to include things like, are there HDB upgraders? What are they looking for? And whether they can afford to buy the 3-bedroom or even a 4-bedroom condo in the area. So this is how, with experience and knowledge, right, the HomeVestor criteria is now upgraded and it's the criteria that I'm using right now. So with this in mind, right, I told Kelly we really got to pull the plug on this, we got to cut loss and move on. And that is why today we bought the Visionaire at Canberra. It's a 3-bed, 3-bath resale EC. Now when we look at the Canberra area, there is like the MRT, which is very close to Visionaire. There is changes like the Bukit Canberra, there's a naval shipyard that's going to change. And of course there's a north-south corridor that's going to link the north to make it more accessible and more in demand. In terms of price gap, if you compare it to like the other condos in the area in Woodlands or even Norwood Grand, you see a huge disparity in the PSF. And so we think that Visionaire has got some room for capital appreciation. Last but not least, the amount that we put into Visionaire to invest was about $400,000. When I look at the HDB upgraders in Canberra, they actually bought about $300,000 and today they are selling at $700,000 to even $800,000. That means a cool profit of close to $500,000 actually. So they actually have that $500,000 to actually reinvest back into a Visionaire EC if they want to. They can easily downpay the whole property already. Yeah, and not only that, right, if you look at the household incomes, they are able to support the loan. So I think Visionaire is really a safer bet. I don't see prices going to go down. I see more opportunity for the prices to grow up. And so today we are doing Visionaire as a co-living. Now on top of buying right, the other thing to take note is to actually increase the quantum whenever you can, right? So what happened here is that if we continue to own the Florence Residences up to today, right, maybe it grows about another 10%, then the capital appreciation, right, is going to be $80,000. Now, don't forget that actually this property is owned by Kelly and her brother. So what's going to happen is the $80,000, right, is going to be split into just $40,000 for Kelly, right? But when we move over to the Visionaire, actually what happened is Kelly is the only owner and we bought it for $1.422 million. And so if we can actually grow 10% from there, it's going to be $142,000 all to Kelly herself. So this is the important that we want to increase the quantum of the property purchase. So every 10%, right, gives you a lot more. So to sum it up, right, here are my final thoughts on this journey from Florence to Visionaire. Number one, cut loss when I really have to, because sometimes there are better opportunities out there, better 10% to get when you go to like Visionaire. Number two, always buy right. Number three, always try to increase the quantum when you can. So a lot of investors come to me and say, hey, should I buy like 1.8 million when actually my budget is 2 million? If you have thinking about that, then just go for 2 million. Last but not least, to avoid all the mistakes, to avoid like buying wrong in the first place, not only you need the investor criteria, you also want to work with someone who has the values, who have the experience and the knowledge to guide you in the right direction. So I hope you guys find this video useful, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Now if you want to check out the full breakdown of the Visionaire that we have bought, check it out in this video here.